Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today I'm doing my latest installment in my deep dive into the 2024 presidential election series. Today's video focuses on the state of Minnesota. Minnesota, the home state to Kamala Harris's running mate Tim Walz. He's the governor of that state. Minnesota is a part of the Rust Belt states, similarly along Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. However, Minnesota has not voted for a Republican since 1972. Will 2024 be the election to break that trend? Perhaps, but so far it seems it was unlikely to do so. This video I'm going to break down some recent election results in Minnesota as well as some current polling and forecasts and give you a look at what Minnesota is looking like right now for 2024 election night. The state of Minnesota in 2020 voted for Joe Biden by 7.1%. In 2016, Hillary Clinton won the state of Minnesota by just 1.5%, very, very close. Definitely one of the states, like many, that shocked on election night in 2016. Minnesota was certainly one of them. In 2012, Barack Obama won the state of Minnesota by 7.7%. The current polling right now, the current polling average, has Kamala Harris at 49% of the vote to Donald Trump's 44.3%. Looking at the national vote for the last three elections, in 2020, Joe Biden won the popular vote by 4.4%. In 2016, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by 2.1%, and in 2012, Barack Obama won the popular vote by 3.9%. Those average out to about 3.5%, the average across the last three elections for the popular vote in favor of the Democrats. Currently in the RCP national polling average, Kamala Harris is leading Donald Trump in the head-to-head matchup of just 1.7% of the vote. If that is true, and that's what it is on election day, that would be 0.4% lower than what Hillary Clinton got in 2016. And remind you, in 2016, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote against Donald Trump, but lost the Electoral College. Harris is polling 0.4% lower than that, which could signify that 2016 might happen again in 2024, where Harris wins the popular vote, but Trump wins the Electoral College. Looking how it relates to Minnesota, though, in 2020, Minnesota voted 2.7% more Democratic than the popular vote. In 2016, Minnesota voted 0.6% more Republican than the popular vote based on the margin of victory of the state. And in 2012, Minnesota voted 3.8% more Democratic than the popular vote. The average popular vote difference of Democrat plus 2. The average margin of victory is about 2 points more Democrat than the popular vote in Minnesota. Looking at some forecasters for how they see Minnesota going, this is one of the most, I would say, competitive ones we've seen thus far, where Real Clear Politics has Minnesota as a toss-up, Sabato's Crystal Ball has it as likely Harris, Inside Elections has it as lean for Harris, Decision Desk HQ in the Hill has it as lean for Harris, and Cook Political Report has it as likely for Harris. So it seems to be a slight lead for Kamala Harris over Donald Trump in all of them except for Real Clear Politics, but how much is that lead seems to be the question that a lot of forecasters disagree on. Some key counties I'm watching for in the state of Minnesota. This is tricky because there are a lot of key counties in Minnesota that I considered using for this video, including some that I didn't choose was Lake County, Carlton County, Clay County, Nicollet County, and Winona County. There are a bunch that I considered that I went with these four because I also took into account the population of those counties in choosing it. But all the ones I mentioned and these four are all very competitive. The first one is Anoka County, where in 2020 it was won by Donald Trump by 1.9%. In 2016 it was won by Trump by 9.6%. But in 2012 it was won by Mitt Romney by 2.6%. This is a county that seems to be a Republican lean county that jumped 7 points from 2012 to 2016 and then dropped about a little over 7 to 8 points from 2016 to 2020. I fully expect this one to be an incredibly close county on election night in 2024, and depending on how this county goes, that could be a sign not just how Minnesota is going to go, but also maybe how some other key counties around the country in toss-up states might be going as well. Anoka is certainly one I'm keeping an eye on. Washington County, this is a county that's right outside the suburb of St. Paul. Washington voted 0.8% for Barack Obama in 2012, 1.8% for Clinton in 2016, and then jumped to 9.2% for Biden in 2020. And it was about an 8-point jump from 2016 to 2020. I'm watching this one very closely because if this is around 9.2% or larger, then I think we know Kamala Harris, at least for this county and for Minnesota, is certainly performing as well as Joe Biden did in the state. And potentially around the country in counties like this one. If Harris is winning by, say, 3 or 4%, that could be a troubling sign for her that in these suburban counties that are expected to go for the Democrats, expected to go for Harris, that if she's not polling as well as Biden, that could be a sign she might potentially be in trouble. Maybe not in Minnesota, but maybe in some other toss-up states. So Washington is one I'm watching very closely. Rice County was won by Obama by 8.3% in 2012, won by Trump in 2016 by 3.1%, and then won in 2020 by just 0.2%. This is one that's very, very close. It could truly go either way. I'm not really sure, to be honest, how this is going to go on election night, considering 2020 was so close. I think this is one I'm certainly watching for because, again, like I mentioned with the suburban counties, this is a very, very interesting one to watch, close one to watch, and maybe could give a sign at how Trump and Harris are performing. Lastly, Blue Earth County voted for Obama in 2012 by 9.5%, voted for Trump in 2016 by 3.7%, and then voted for Biden by 4.4%. This is another one of those counties that swung about 4 points from 12 to 16, and then about 7 points from 16 to 12, or from 16 to 20. And for 2024, I expected to stay in the Democratic side, but I'll be very interested to watch to see what the numbers are, because a swing one way or another is certainly possible in this county. As for some key cities I'm keeping an eye on in Minnesota, of course, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the two biggest cities in the state, nicknamed the Twin Cities, St. Paul the capital, Rochester as well, on the southern eastern part of Minnesota, I'm taking a close look on as well. Looking at the map for the counties of Minnesota, in 2020, Joe Biden got 52.4% of the vote statewide. Donald Trump got 45.3% of the vote. Starting with the cities, Minneapolis voted 70.5 to 27.3 in favor of Joe Biden. St. Paul voted 71.5 to 26.1 in favor of Biden. Blue Earth County, suburban county, close county, 50.8 to 46.4 in favor of Biden. Anoka County, just north of Minneapolis and St. Paul, voted 49.7 to 47.8 in advantage Trump. Washington County, right outside of St. Paul, where it's a little bit more suburban and bluer, 53.5 to 44.2 advantage Biden. Rice County, 48.9, 48.8 advantage Trump. Very, very close there. And Rochester, 54.2 to 43.4 advantage Biden. So that was the 2020 map in Minnesota. And looking at 2016, a lot more third-party vote, especially on the Democratic side, than in 2020. Trump's numbers really didn't change that much from 2016 to 2020, only going up about 0.4%. But Hillary Clinton's numbers were down a lot from what Joe Biden had in 2020, what Biden got 4 years later. Minneapolis was 63.1 to 28.2 in favor of Clinton. St. Paul was 65.1 to 26 in favor of Clinton. Blue Earth County was 46.6 to 43 in advantage Trump. Anoka, 50.3 to 40.6 advantage Trump. Washington County, much closer than in 2020, 46.5 to 44.7, narrow win for Clinton. Rice County, 47.6 to 44.5, advantage Trump. And Rochester, 45.3 to 44.5, advantage for Clinton. It's very interesting to see that in 2020, statewide, Trump did better in 2020 than he did in 2016. However, as I mentioned, Clinton got such a plurality of the vote in Minnesota, where Biden in 2020 got an outright majority of the vote statewide. And you can see a lot of the red areas around the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. Anoka is a little bit redder. Washington's less blue. Blue Earth is redder. Nicolette's redder. Rice is redder. Winona's redder. Trump, I think, did about the same in these places, but Clinton did so much worse than Biden did in 2020 that it was enough to give Trump a closer defeat in Minnesota in 2016 than in 2020. So that's very interesting. And now we look at 2012, where Barack Obama got 52.7%, Mitt Romney got 45%. Minneapolis was 62.3 to 35.3, advantage Obama. St. Paul, 66.3 to 31.1, advantage Obama. Blue Earth County, 53 to 43.5, advantage again for Obama. Anoka County, 50.1 to 47.5, win for Romney. Washington County, 49.4, 48.6, win for Obama. Rice County, 52.9, 44.6, win for Obama. That's a flip from 12 to 16. And Rochester, 50.2 to 47, win for Obama. Closer win than 2020. So that's the statewide look at Minnesota, as well as some of the other counties I mentioned as well. They're a lot smaller in population than some of the other counties I chose, but those will all be very interesting to watch for going into election night for 2024. On the Democratic side, for how the Minnesota Democratic Party votes, in 2020, Joe Biden got 52.4% of the vote. 2016, Hillary Clinton got 46.4%. And in 2012, Barack Obama got 52.7%. I took these data points and conducted a range of the highest total, 52.7, minus the lowest total, 46.4, and got a value of 6.3. I then took 6.3 and added it to the highest total, 52.7, and subtracted from the lowest total, 46.4, to get a range. On the low end, the Democrats in Minnesota should get around 40.1 to a high end of 59. Barring a complete and total polling miss based on the last 3 elections, I fully expect Minnesota to vote somewhere between 40.1 and 59. It's also worth noting that across the last 3 elections, the Democrats in Minnesota on the presidential race have had an average of 50.5% across the last 3 elections statewide. As for how I think this is going to go, I think that it's looking more likely that with Tim Walz on the ticket being from the state, Harris is going to be similar to Joe Biden's numbers in 2020 and maybe uptick just a little bit from there. I don't think it's going to be a massive jump. I don't think it's going to be like 2 or 3% of a vote jump from 2020, but I think 0.5% to 1% jump is certainly realistic for Harris in Minnesota. On the Republican side, this one shocked me when I was going through Minnesota. The Republicans really have not had much variance across the last 3 elections in Minnesota, which makes predicting this actually pretty comfortable for me. That in 2020, Trump got 45.3% of the vote, 45.3. 2016, Trump got 44.9, and 2012, Mitt Romney got 45. So again, taking the highest total of 45.3, subtracting the lowest total of 44.9, that got a answer of 0.4%. So then I took the 0.4, added it to the high end and the low end, and subtracted from the low end, got a low end of 44.5% and a high end of 45.7%. And again, barring a polling miss in Minnesota, I'm very confident that the election night results will fall somewhere between these 2 numbers. And it's also worth noting the average vote percentage across the last 3 elections is 45.1. Now, this is very interesting, and I don't think really that in the state of Minnesota, there's a ton of room for Trump to really increase his numbers, but I do think it is certainly possible Trump can increase his numbers from 45.3 a little bit, but I actually do believe the range where the high end is 45.7. For some reason, there doesn't seem to be a lot of Republican variance in Minnesota, so I think being within 0.5 percentage point of 45.3 and 45.7, I think is certainly very realistic and likely going to happen on election night for Trump. So for my prediction for Minnesota and its 10 electoral votes on election night 2024, I am predicting that Kamala Harris will win the state of Minnesota, of course the home state of her running mate Tim Walz, with 52.9% of the vote to Donald Trump's 45.5% of the vote. Harris jumps up about 0.5% of the vote from what Joe Biden got in 2020, a little bit of an added boost from Tim Walz being on the ticket with her. Trump goes up from 45.3 to 45.5, keeping with the 0.4% increase he got from 2016 to 2020. I gave him an additional 0.2% from 2020 to 2024 because I think there's still some undecided vote he may be able to flip that he may not have gotten in 2020. I think it's looking like to be a more favorable national environment for Trump in 2024 than 2020 was, so I think he's naturally going to pick up a few votes there. But like the range suggested, I don't think there's a ton of room for Trump to gain votes in Minnesota, so I gave him 0.2% boost, but not a ton more than that. I don't think it's super likely in Minnesota. But as we always know, elections are always unpredictable, so we'll have to wait and see. But I have Harris getting 52.9, Trump getting 45.5, a margin of victory in Minnesota of 7.4% for Kamala Harris. And now looking at the 2024 electoral map, giving the state of Minnesota to Harris, right now, Donald Trump leads with 130 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 107, and we're getting closer and closer, going state by state, leading up until election night on 2024. So make sure you continue to stay tuned because there will be more states coming in the future in the coming hours and days, so please stay tuned for that. In the meantime, please enjoy the sneak peek of my 2024 full election night prediction, where I go over the state of Minnesota and make a call in that state. It is now 9 p.m. on the East Coast, and we have a second huge poll closings of the night, including several key, very important battleground states. The states with their polls closing right now are Arizona, Colorado, Kansas, Louisiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Nebraska, New Mexico, New York, North Dakota, South Dakota, Texas, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. Now let's take a look at what projections we can make at this time. In the state of Minnesota, the home state of Kamala Harris's running mate Tim Walz, the governor of the state, we can say that Minnesota is too early to call. We expect Harris is favored to win the state, but we are waiting for more votes to be counted before we are able to make a projection due to the closeness of this race. That will do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to give it a like. And if you really liked it, please remember to click the subscribe button. And make sure you turn post notifications on so you always get notified when I post a new video. That way you never miss one. Also, please remember to share this video with your friends and family if you really like the video. And remember to stay tuned because I'll be posting at least one video every single day leading up until Election Day, so I'd really appreciate it if you keep coming back and watching those videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video.